Yeah.
All right. 1, 2,
Stand by.
3, 4, 5, 6. Just be stepping up.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
1
Obviously,
second, Jake.
we've
We
seen
got
that Marjorie
reaction.
Taylor Greene is calling for a motion to vacate. Listen, all of us in life get to decide how we handle disappointment. You can be productive or you can be destructive. Ms. Taylor Greene is choosing destructive. We know that this motion is not going to do one thing to make America stronger. It's not going to do one thing to deliver a conservative victory. It's going to sow discord and dissent. And by the way, it's going to fail. She is engaged in a failing act of political theater. What you have here are some of the Main Street members who are the adults. And we're going to do what adults do. We are going to ignore the tantrums and instead work to actually govern this country. With that, we've got the Vice Chair of the Main Street, Stephanie Bites.
Look, I think Dusty said it well. We've been down this road. There is no plan. Marjorie wants to, sow chaos and division within the Republican Party. Someone has to govern. We have the smallest majority in history currently, and this speaker has been put in an untenable situation to try to govern. With a 1-seat majority in the House, Democrat-controlled Senate, and a Democratic White House. We are up against a wall here, and the American people are frustrated. They are angry. They have had enough. They want Republicans to govern. This does not help. It's not effective. It's actually sowing, I think, division within the conference. We've got to get back on track. We understand the frustration with the border. All of us standing here before you realize the border is an issue. We want to solve it too, but holding government hostage is not the way to do that.
Mr. Armstrong from North Dakota.
Oh, hi. No. They're asking the impossible. They refuse to vote for a rule, and which means you have to bring things to the floor with Democratic support. And then when you get Democratic support, then they get mad at you for getting Democratic support. We all wish we could have a larger conservative majority. We wish we had the Senate. We wish we had the presidency. We do not have any of those things. A lot of the same people that are frustrated in dealing with all of this have had the opportunity to do these things and move forward. And the reality of this is this is like the congressional version of a temper tantrum. And we continue to do it. We continue to move forward. And what we're really doing and what they're really allowing to happen is for the Democrats to coalesce on issues that we are divided on. Ukraine's a perfect example. I disagreed with the speaker on the Ukraine vote, but the reason we aren't allowed to bring amendments to that is because we have people in our party that sank the rule, 55 of them, which gets us to a point where we have to be where we're at. And I probably have the longest personal relationship with Mike Johnson of anybody here. I served with him when I got here in Congress in 2018. If Mike Johnson is not thoughtful enough and not conservative enough to be the Speaker of the House, then we have real problems because there ain't anybody else that's going to be acceptable for that job.
Most of us, by the time we turn 12 years old, figure out that tantrums don't actually work. And apparently not everybody in Congress has got the memo. Mr. Lalotta from New York.
On both sides of the aisle, there are too many show ponies and not enough workhorses. Beside and behind me are some serious members of the Republican conference who came here to govern, who came here to fix issues on the border, fix issues on inflation. We remain focused on those issues, and we will not be distracted by Marjorie Taylor Greene and this waste of time motion to vacate that will not have the support. Too many members of Congress are here to seek attention for themselves, not here to represent constituents and represent the country. There are serious issues that deserve the country's attention, that deserve the Congress's attention. Folks beside and behind me are the ones leading the charge in that. I'm proud to stand with them today.
Ms. Dela Cruz from Texas.
Thank you. Look, all of us here, we stand behind Speaker Johnson. Nobody, not any American, wants to see part 2 of a motion to vacate. It is destructive to America, and it does not help the crisis on our border. Speaker Mike Johnson was at our border just last week and received overwhelming support from all sides of the aisle, red, blue, and in the middle, purple. I will tell you this. This is unnecessary and it is destructive to the future of the Republican Party, but to America. Thank you.
Mr. Despacito, New York. And then we'll have Mr. Lawler, and then we'll take a few questions.
Well, I think Kelly said it best in that we wish we had a larger majority in the House, we wish we had the Senate, and we wish we had the presidency. And the best way to get there is by being a unified Republican conference. And stunts like this does not unify our conference. Our focus should be growing our majority, taking the Senate, and electing Donald Trump president in November. That should be the focus. These tantrums taking the country down this course again, like we saw months ago, it's not what we're going to do. It's not going to pass. And after today's vote, we will continue governing the way Republicans should.
Amen. Mr. Lowe, New York.
Well, Moscow Marjorie has clearly gone off the deep end, maybe the result of a space laser. But this type of tantrum is absolutely unacceptable, and it does nothing to further the cause of the conservative movement. The only people who have stymied our ability to govern are the very people that have pulled these types of stunts throughout the course of this Congress to undermine the House Republican majority. The American people gave us the responsibility to serve as a check and balance on Joe Biden and his disastrous policies, from the disastrous withdrawal in Afghanistan, the Russian invasion of Ukraine that resulted, the terrorist attack on Israel because of the appeasement of Iran, the increase in Iranian petroleum sales, $88 billion, and the fiasco at our southern border. That is a direct result of the policies of Joe Biden. The reason we don't have border security is because we have members in our conference who refuse to pass a rule. Members in our conference who refused to sign on to a CR that had border security. Members in our conference who have continually undermined the Speaker's ability to negotiate. That is why, if they're so upset about the things that haven't happened, they should take a look in a mirror, starting with Marjorie Taylor Greene.
How do you think this episode reflects on the House Republican majority right now, among your constituents, among voters, as you ask them to give you the majority again?
Well, most Americans are busy leading real life, and I've got bad news for Marjorie. People are going to pay attention to this story for about an hour, and then they're going to go back to real life. This is not going to make her any more famous than she is. This is not going to change the arc or the trajectory of American history. This will be a flash in a pan. She will be sorely disappointed. The rest of us are going to get back to work.
Can you talk about
Hold on. Let's give Ms. Bice, if she's got anything to say.
I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, this is, I think, a distraction for all of us. And I would go back to, we've tried to be thoughtful about putting legislation forward. Is it everything that we want? No. There are certain things that we would like to see, and we recognize that the border is a big issue. But the strategies that some of our colleagues are taking as we are, going down this path are destructive. They're not helpful, and they don't move us forward. The country's tired of this. I hear it from my constituents every time I go home. Please get back to governing, and that's what we're here to do.
Right here.
Can I just ask about, Trump has backed Johnson publicly, and, there's been a lot of reporting that he tried to discourage her from doing this. Can you guys talk about that at all, and just, where that leaves her and Trump?
Mr. Miller from Ohio.
Well, I'm somewhat familiar with the situation. I won't speak for President Trump. What I can tell you is that I believe that this isn't the way that he wanted it to go. And I think that Marjorie is going to find herself in a very lonely place. And one of the biggest things that I think we have the biggest problem with is the disinformation that she continues to put out as a member of Congress, and actually what she's doing right now on the House floor. Ms. Bice just touched on, we have gotten wins for the border, for the American people, that nobody talks about. In the last appropriations package, we added 8,000 detention beds and roughly 22,000 CBP additional officers to the border. When Republicans go out there and say that we haven't done anything and it's not our number one priority, they're lying only to elevate their platform. I think what this is that Marjorie got sick and tired of people like Mr. Gates hogging all of the attention, as he usually does. And she said enough is enough, and she took the spotlight, saying she was going to do the motion to vacate on Ukraine. She had brought it up before Ukraine had even hit the floor, which should tell you one thing. Again, for the second time, this failed experiment. Sometimes it's about members of Congress and not about the American people. And hopefully that you all see that, and so do the American people when they see acts like this that Marjorie is doing.
Should she be kicked out of the conference?
Let's take two more, and then we got to go in and do our work. Kadia, did you have something?
Mr. Miller?
I wanted to ask about elections in New York. How vulnerable does this make you, having to do this once again, talk to New Yorkers and explain that, here we are.
I think elections are about distinction. In New York, that's the case, and we're happy to distinguish ourselves from Marjorie Taylor Greene and these antics that she's providing on the floor today. They do not represent what we feel. That's why we're on the steps right now. While she's spewing false rhetoric on the floor, we are here right now to provide a distinction that we are much different from that. We will tell folks in Washington, tell folks back home that this does not represent who we are.
Yes, go ahead.
What's your advice to Democrats who heard the speaker this morning say that 2020 was a doubtful election and they're worried about non-citizens voting in 2024?
Listen, Democrats in the House, they get to make their own decision. They can vote in a way that keeps stability and predictability for this government, or they can throw us into chaos. I would hope that their decision today will be to choose stability and predictability. Somebody else?
They chose that once already.
Yeah, right. Okay, we'll do one more.
Is there a motion to table expected today? Could that be brought today? Is that going to be brought today?
We're not in a position to talk about tactics on the record. Afterwards, if somebody wants to know the state of play off the record, I'd be happy to tell them what I know. Anything else on the record?
Do you think Marjorie Taylor Greene should be punished?
One dumpster fire at a time. Let's take care of the motion to vacate, and then we can worry about whatever comes next. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.